Because she told me, she said, you're very much like a Victor. I said, Victor?
I hardly know her.
There you go.
All right, nice to meet you, Paul. How's it going?
It's nice to meet you, Kevin. I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to this interview slash discussion.
Right, it's nice to meet other spawns of JJ, like the 3000
Whoa,
mentoring
excuse
thing.
me. I am
Sorry,
no
sorry.
spawn of JJ. JJ is my orbiter.
Yes,
Okay. I
and now
have brought him into the fold. He's on his way. Okay. I have reasons to believe that he is waking up. He will one day be conscious, but make no mistake, he's my spawn.
sure, and now I am too. I'm a
There you go.
apprentice
Fine.
meme smither at this point.
Perfect.
Interested in the field, in the craft.
Welcome.
Yeah. So Paul, I ended up looking through like a lot of your interviews, just to research different kind of questions I could ask JJ, any kind of corners I could get him in. Um, there's nothing really I wanted to push him on. I mostly just wanted to circle jerk about how the center is under attack, and the establishment is under attack, and like my status quo is like my institutions need to be defended, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
particularly I was really interested with your League of Politics stuff, so I kind of want to start with that a little bit. And
Sure.
what's your highest rank you've gotten in League?
Ever?
Yeah,
Platinum 2, the real Platinum 2, when there were 5 divisions and there
right
was no
before
Emerald.
Emerald. Yeah,
Yeah. That would have, I think that was like top 2 to 5% or something like that. Now Platinum 2, inflation because of Biden,
right,
Platinum 2 is probably like top 20% or something like that.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, what roles did you play your champions?
I made Volibear top and Warwick top.
Wow.
Both junglers who I made top laners. I mean, I guess I didn't single-handedly make them top laners, but I do have 2 guides on MobaFire. Each one has like 1.7 million views. One for Warwick top, one for
Wow.
Volibear top.
I'm gonna guess like on hit, like Wits End. You were a big lethal tempo player, maybe.
I think this was before before those runes. Oh, Jesus, what was it?
Not really before.
Yeah, it was like there was the 3 mastery trees, the blue, red, and green one. They've redone runes and masteries.
Right. Like which seasons did you play mostly? Is it
3 is when I started. What are we on now? Like 12 or some shit?
like 15?
Is it seriously 15?
Welcome to Noxus 15. Yeah.
Jesus. I don't know. I stopped playing hardcore probably 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. More than that. I played a lot with my ranked 5s team, which that was the most fun because it was like you're playing with a team, but you're playing iterated games, so you guys can work on strategy offline and all that stuff. But we had good micro players, with, what would you say, social disabilities, the inability to take responsibility for not warding, and then scream and get mad when they get ganked. This guy ganked me 5 times already.
Right.
Because you don't ward. And it was not fun having gone through that exercise probably 17 times. So then I stopped playing with the rank 5s team.
Right. Rank Flex is the most pro-social way to play League. It's funny.
I don't know if there is a social way to play League, but sure, yes.
No, well, as far as there is a pro-social way to play League.
That's fair.
And now there's
relative.
Clash, and that's probably the best way where you can kind of plan it out with your teammates and stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, Clash is an extension of rank 5s, basically. The only good game mode is TFT. That's all I play now.
Right.
I'm Platinum 2 in that. I did get to Emerald at one point. Not in this rotation.
Have you ever thought about expanding your League of Politics to the TFT side?
Yeah, I was. I actually have. I'm too schizophrenic. I have too many ideas. So that's in the backlog potentially, but we'll see.
Right. Have you ever watched like LS?
Like a professional?
What
is LS?
LS is like Lost Sanity, or he was like a League streamer that
no,
in like Korea.
I never really watched like the LCS or any of the professional stuff.
Okay. Well, he's where I kind of got some of my ideas, or like idiosyncrasies, like playing League. Basically, I'm what's known as like a herbivore jungler, where like I just full clear and like never gank until like six.
Yeah, you're the worst.
Yeah, I'm the worst.
Yeah.
My champions are like I play like I love Evelyn and like Karthus basically, and they're both like
Carthage
hardcore,
jungle. That's
hardcore
good.
like power farm, power farm, power farm,
Sure.
and then your lanes like just question mark
Is
people the
Carthage
entire.
jungle off meta?
It was at one point, but like not so much anymore.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a very off meta player. I
Yeah,
like Volibear and Warwick. When I played them, were not being played top much,
yeah,
if
discovered
not
that.
at all.
But LS's biggest point was basically like related to the professional scene about how things like players aren't robots and how professionals really kind of tended towards like results based analysis, and they would kind of just base their entire analysis of league off of like whatever the top teams were doing, which
Mhm.
is generally what you do. But the top teams were playing like early game champions, um like just like Lee Sin or like Elise or like Rek'Sai, like that kind of meta. um and then LS's whole philosophy was basically that you should play like late game scalers instead at the professional scene, because there are certain points in the game where, if you're a professional, there's only so many angles that you can have a for an early game like gank, and professionals should be like good enough to avoid that. And then, like everyone knows like how useless Pantheon or like Lee Sin is after like 15 minutes, right?
Yeah,
And
as a Pantheon player at one point, I'm very familiar with how useless they are after 15 minutes.
right, so I want to kind of
That's hold on, just real quick. That's so funny that because that was exactly the champion. There's like what? How many champions are there? 250 in the game.
I think it's
But
like
literally, the
160
one as
something.
soon as you said early game champion, and then they just fall out. I was like Pantheon, and then you said
Yeah,
Pantheon. So
yeah.
interesting.
Honestly, he's a little bit better now, since like they've reworked him. Like he's got like
Sure.
the invulnerability stuff, but like he's still like so focused on his like base stats and his just like stun, and
Yep.
all of his champions, like they just can't do anything in like a team fight, or they just get CC'd and they don't have a lot of flexibility. Whereas certain champions like Evelyn or Karthus, or like supports that have like shields, they have like a lot more flexibility. And I was just kind of thinking of this like while I was watching all of like your League of like politics, and especially like the memetics, as far as like um things like the accessibility of a meme and then the durability of it.
Mhm.
And uh, like I want to gather your thoughts on, and it's a little bit I for some reason I guess I was under the impression that you'd played League more recently, but it's like all the scaling stuff like still holds up. It's not like
Yeah, yeah.
anything is really
This
like
the same. The
changed.
game is fundamentally the same.
But I want to kind of probe your brain on like things like late game scaling memes, or like memes with like early game power that like fall off.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that's an interesting angle.
yeah. That's a great way to think about it. It's the old idea that bad ideas spread very quickly nowadays. Like that's one of the problems with
Yes.
misinformation. Bad ideas spread very quickly. It's like yes, but bad ideas don't have staying power. They fall off early, right? If Hassan Piker goes and tells his audience, "Don't try at your job. Don't try. You're a wage slave. Treat them as whatever he says." I've watched him saw some stupid clip where he's like, "Don't try at your job. Don't stay late. Don't work hard." Okay, well, good luck. That idea will spread quickly because it attaches to everyone's. Oh, well, Hassan's successful and cool, so I don't need to try hard because he said not to. And then they go do that, and then it blows up in their face, and then they realize, oh, this is a terrible belief, or the belief that anyone who votes for Trump is evil, or anyone who votes for Bernie Sanders is a communist and also evil. It's like those ideas might spread quickly, but then people rapidly realize, oh, this is dumb. Because they'll go out in the world and they'll meet someone and be talking to them for 15, 20 minutes, or maybe an hour, or maybe, they'll know them for a week or so from work or something. And then they find
Right.
out, oh, they voted for Bernie. What are you going to start being an asshole to them now? Because if they're truly evil, you should be an asshole to them, or at least not be friends with them. So those bad ideas fall off quickly. And the good ideas are the late game scaling ideas. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
saying what you believe to be true, even if it's not popular, which I like to think I'm doing. Whether or not
Right.
I am remains to be seen.
Right. The classic Peterson line
Yeah.
is one of the best rules, I think.
Yeah, so I would say saying what you believe to be true is like playing Cassidon top with Seraph's Embrace, Rod of Ages, and whatever other 6 scaling items there are. And then you just R. Your R is on 1 second cooldown. You just boom, 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 kill, carry, boom, 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 walk out, and just flee everything and have infinite mana, basically.
Yeah, I kind of like that just because it is a really big struggle, obviously, like through the early levels, and it is so difficult to become that kind of person that is able to like withstand criticism and actually be able to like articulate your beliefs, let alone like present them in front of a wide public, and try to like spread your ideas.
Yeah.
So I think it is kind of a good metric for saying how, and it's why I like people that are able to like really hold to their beliefs or like attach like a monetary value for them. Like I'm kind of in favor of like the betting thing that that certain streamers have talked about
Yep.
of like
Tirzu is a
attaching.
fan of that.
Yeah, who's a fan of that?
Tirzu? Do you know who that is?
Oh, the tier list YouTuber. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the animal, yeah, the animal, it's specifically like focused around animals.
right.
Maybe you've seen his videos. I don't know. I
I've
found,
seen some.
yeah, I found out about him after my League of Politics. Despite what many liars will say that I stole Tirzu's format.
What kinds of bets has he placed on like certain beliefs he's had?
I don't know that he's bet, but he's made this point specifically
Oh, okay.
is that people should like what I have to go. I had a chat with him over Discord about it one time, and I think it was about the stock market. He's
Right.
like, "Well, if you believe that the economy is going to crash, then why are you not short selling everything right now?"
Right.
Valid point. There are other, there are other factors at play at different things, but yeah, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, like my villain origin story, like the video I made that impressed JJ basically is like I put money on Kamala to win the election basically on basically just on the fact that I thought the odds were basically 50-50, but the all the what was it? It was Polymarket. It was like 80-20 before like anything had even come in, right? Like before Florida, it was like 80-20
Sure.
like at the beginning of the day. So it's basically like, oh, I don't know. But like if I make this bet enough times, like I feel like it's 50-50. And then obviously it didn't come out that way. But I still kind of like given the information I knew at the time, like I feel like it was a fair bet to make, and I feel like I would make that again,
Sure.
given the information landscape I lived in and all the media access that I had.
Hmm.
Um, and also, I feel like the loss from those scenarios, and then like kind of like making that public or being even just able to like speak about it to friends. When I talk about the betting thing, I don't want to focus so much on like the making it public. I think just like being able to attach yourself to that in a point in time, and even if it's not like public to like YouTube, I mean like public like with your friends, so it's like other people can
Sure.
like call you out on like your past beliefs, and then you're a little bit more stable, because hopefully that your friends or family will be able to like kind of call you out or like monitor your beliefs, so you're not just like completely like whiplashing from like extreme to
Yeah.
extreme,
So
right?
the reason you like the betting thing is because you think that it is a
Holds you
mechanism.
accountable.
Okay. And why do you care about holding people accountable?
um Mostly just because I feel like we're in like the hot take market, or like just the like predictions, and people are just far too comfortable with um having like an opinion on everything, or like trying to like generate like the most like clicks or controversy, or even just like at like a party, like they're just trying to generate like the most like conversation, or they're just like trying to get someone to like argue with them, right?
Sure.
For like social approval. But I think the kinds of people that at least like I want to like listen to are the ones that kind of take a more long-term view of things, and they're able to like kind of hold their reputations, right? Because I
Yeah,
think that's
nerds, you
how
mean? You like listening to nerds.
I like listening to people with reputations to
That's
lose.
true. Well, a
Yeah.
nerd, Jordan Peterson's a nerd. Jonathan Haidt's a nerd.
Yeah. I would say both those two like they have professional reputations, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
that's
it's
fair.
good that those kind of third party.
Why in God's name are you talking to me then?
Because I actually think that you do have like a decent network that kind of holds you like accountable, or will be able to like like reply guy you on Twitter and be like, hey, like you're a Nazi, like why are you defending like Sam Hyde or something, right? And I think you are decently capable like interacting with those kinds of comments, and at least thinking about
Interesting. Is
them.
that an assumption, or have you seen me interact with comments in a way that you deem, I don't know, optimal or good?
It is frankly an assumption. Like I really
Okay.
don't know enough of you to
I
be able
tend
to
to
make a
ignore
judgment.
anytime people call me a neo-Nazi. I tend to every now and then, if they're really deranged, I'll ask them like, "What advice would you give me?" Because I'm just curious. Like, what does this person think? What does this schizophrenic think exactly? And I'll try and prod it out of him. But most of the time, I just ignore those comments. I don't really, certainly on Twitter, I don't really reply to
Right.
almost anything.
Can I ask you how you gauge your interaction then between online and then like your real life friend group or family?
What do you mean? How do I compare the two?
Like,
I get called a Nazi online way more.
yeah, like I just mean I
And I
assume
get
like
called a
you.
libtard all the time in real life. I come home from, like for Thanksgiving or something like that. Walking, oh, here's the libtard.
Yeah, that's what
Here's
I
the
mean.
guy that
Like I
voted for Joe
assume you
Biden.
weight your real life criticism like 80-90% as opposed to like your online persona or whatever.
No, not necessarily, because a lot of the criticism I get in real life is from my dad, who is basically the Destiny equivalent, except he thinks all progressives are morons. So
Okay.
Destiny says every conservative is an idiot. And my dad thinks every progressive is an idiot. Most of that criticism, but if I'm narrowing it to that example, which is the person from my real life who is constantly texting me articles about politics, mostly Fox News articles. But I definitely have friends who I have close relationships with who, yeah, who I don't even consider. It's not like I have my friends' opinions and then the online opinions. It's like I have my real relationships that ground me. And then there's this other thing over here, which is the comment section,
Right.
which is more, there's useful feedback in there. And that's sort of the perpetual unsolvable problem is like, I should listen to the comments sometimes because there are people who genuinely like, hey, you said this is wrong. I like you, but blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, that's stuff I need to listen to. The problem is there's so much that is not that good. And it's not so easy to uh, foster the right attitude towards comments in general. Because I could just say, I don't respond to comments. I don't give a shit. I don't listen to anyone. It's like, that's probably the better thing to lean into, but it's a type 1, type 2 error problem. Because if I ignore all the comments, then I ignore good feedback. But then if I like get hung up on, people saying I should have some more good comments like on the top of my head. I
Right.
don't know, all the Easter Island head statues that I ban anytime they talk about my wide head. I obviously can't internalize those, otherwise I'd go mad. So, I tend to lean more into I'm going to ignore all of them. But I take emails more seriously because that's clear, like because no one's commenting with the intention of like I'm showing off for anyone else. It's just like, hey, if I just get this piece of info to Paul, then I'll be happy.
Right.
Not all emails. I get some fucking schizophrenic emails. But
No, that is funny because I think it's interesting. You just have to consider the selection bias and like the psychological profile of someone that types like a YouTube comment, especially like at a
yeah,
certain like time. Like sometimes it's like really early into like the videos like release, and yeah, they are doing it for like other commenters, or they're like signal like, oh, like this guy is like really stupid, or I hate this guy, or they're doing it for upvotes versus like the emailers that are reaching out to you individually, and that is like a good way to weight
yeah.
things.
Well, and to your point, it's like, um, I mean, I streamed for about a year, and I took callers and all that, and I've talked to people who disagree with me. And there's some like I said, there's some very intelligent ones who lay out a good case, and actually who have influenced, for example, my decision to stop streaming because someone came on and was like, you come on here and you say all that, you talk about Ukraine, you're telling all your opinions about Ukraine, but like what you don't spend time looking at it, and so it's like you're just kind of saying shit for the sake of saying shit. And I was like, he's not wrong. That's actually a good point. It was one of many reasons why, but that's one factor that went into it. You know what? I probably should stop streaming so I don't get asked about random shit. And because it's a stream and it's entertainment and I have to keep viewers up, give an opinion that is probably like, I don't really care that much. I don't mind giving my opinion if people ask, but as soon as, and this often happens. This happened, for example, in my last conversation with Destiny. As soon as it becomes, I'm arguing for something I don't want to argue for or argue about, like whether Sam Hyde is a Nazi or whether we should give money to Ukraine. It's like, here's what I think. I'll tell you why I think it, but I'm not trying to convince you to believe what I believe. And if you get mad that I'm not changing my mind based on, whatever Wikipedia article you send me, that's not my problem. Um, but when someone writes a comment, it could be who's the most admirable person that you can possibly think of in your life, or public figure, or that
Me,
like someone you truly look up to as like this guy is a genuine, or this girl is a genuine hero of sorts.
there's some authors I really like. Like I really like Timothy Snyder.
Okay, Timothy Snyder. When Timothy Snyder writes a comment, and if it's behind an anonymous profile, it looks more or less the same as when a schizophrenic 14-year-old writes a comment, and because it's both in just text form, it's like it's treated as if they're the same merit,
Right.
the same plane. So, having talked to many of these people who I know disagree with me, many of them Destiny fans, um, makes it easier to not take them as seriously.
Right. How do you feel about ending online anonymity?
I tend to be more for it, but I'm aware of my bias because I'm wacky enough to be willing to take the risk for saying that maybe Israel did 9/11 on one of the largest political streams.
Right.
Which should be clear, maybe they did. I don't know.
So, like you're for
I'm
like
for
the
people.
transparency. Yeah.
I'm for people taking ownership of what they say, whether it's in person or online.
Yeah.
Now, I think you can make like, for example, there are certain accounts that I think anonymity is fine and probably good. Like there's the Nancy Pelosi stock tracker, for example.
Yeah.
That's fine. Keep
Whistleblowers.
that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Keep that anonymous. Otherwise, the Clintons are going to take that person out. But for most people, when they're sharing opinions, especially when it comes to politics, because I don't think you can't. This is my opinion, and people will disagree, but I am correct, and they're wrong. But you cannot evaluate a political or philosophical idea without also evaluating the personality of the person espousing that idea.
Right. Like whether or not that person has homies.
Yeah, yeah, honestly. And to be clear, which is there are, this is specific for politics and philosophy. Like math, it doesn't matter if you're schizophrenic or a murderer or Mother Teresa. The laws of algebra and calculus are the same no matter who tells you it.
Right.
So for deterministic things, it doesn't matter who, you don't have to evaluate the personality. For political, philosophical, psychological, I would say impossible to evaluate the ideas without evaluating the person espousing them, or at least not impossible. It's not useful to evaluate those ideas independent of the people espousing them.
Right. So to take that to its logical conclusion, then how would you suggest that people like evaluate your ideas based on like your personal life and
Mm.
how you like make connections or how you have um like through your streaming, like you would say you'd have certain healthy and unhealthy like dynamics with like giving like your takes that are
Yep.
just like for like entertainment, and then but then also like you have strengths behind the scenes that you've developed because of your interactions online. And
Hmm.
like I'm kind of like learning this now, just like how much you have to like learn to be able to like go through like the constant like creative process to like be able to like make your videos. Like I'm sure
Sure.
you've like learned a lot from that has
Yep.
been productive, and you can
Hmm.
probably use it to like make a community and like gather interesting people from all sorts of ideological backgrounds. So uh, make the case a little bit.
Can you specify the question?
Yeah, sorry. Could I frame the question in the form of a
I get
question?
all of what you just said there at the end, but I forgot the specific question.
Yeah, the specific question is like for your ideas, like what gives them merit based on like your personal life.
Well, I mean, the fact that they are the ideas that I genuinely have are what gives them merit for me. What gives them? Why should other people give any merit to my ideas? I don't. Maybe they shouldn't. Right? I have all kinds of flaws and weaknesses, and other people might see them that other people might see that in a way that I don't. Like for example, even 2 years ago, there's I would get very, very angry about certain political issues. Like I reacted to a Jubilee Middle Ground episode about like transgender children, and I watched. This is like I don't know, a couple months ago maybe. I went back and watched that reaction from like 3 years ago, and I was like seething. It's like, what the fuck? Why am I getting so angry about that? I don't have any kids like this. This isn't directly affecting me in any way. And in hindsight, it was obvious, like, oh, because the world was also like mid COVID and all these different things. But it was like I don't have anything going on in my personal life because I'm stuck in my apartment and I'm angry for all these different reasons, and I kind of don't know what I want to do in life and blah 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 some stuff. And I'm clearly getting caught up in all this shit. And I watch that now and I see that and I go, that's obviously what was going on. And so I know that there are probably people watching me now who can see whatever the current flaw is in mine, which is, I don't know, what's the most likely mistake I'm making? Probably not committing to, if I'm going to play the role of a comedian, I should commit more to it rather than this like half in, half out type thing. And also I should probably just, quit this and go get a girlfriend and go get married and have kids instead of wasting my time online all the time. That's probably the deeper one. But yeah, I would never tell anyone why they should. I mean, I guess because I genuinely believe them, and then it's up to you if they resonate with you. I can't tell you why my ideas should resonate with you particularly. I'm just assuming that if I say what I believe to be true, it'll map onto your experience to some degree because they're true. But I can't make a case for why, you should believe in what I have to say. You should regard Kevin, I went on one of the largest political YouTube channels and said maybe Israel did 9/11. Okay, you should regard me with skepticism, right?
I do.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm more kind of pointing at. I'm pointing at the fact that of how pragmatically like it should map onto like some benefit in your life, like, and what you mentioned about the Jubilee episode is like good because it does mention like a piece of your life that was like fragmented or missing during COVID, and presumably like over like the last couple of years, like since we've been able to be out of lockdown, like you've been able to like kind of fill in those gaps in your life. But I guess it is difficult to say like whether or not it is because of like any of your like political ideals or like thoughts, or just like as a natural consequence of just like living your life.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. If my political ideal is something like go and solve the biggest problem you think you can solve, and I have a very high opinion of myself, which I have to have in order to do what I do in the way that I do it, then my political ideals cause me to probably spend more time making YouTube videos than I should when I could be out meeting people in real life, and trying to build my own community rather than fly to Toronto and hang out with Greg and them and, just get but a taste of it.
Yeah, that's true. It's not to say that you can't borrow from other communities, though.
True. Right. So I probably should not spend so much time online, right? Or I probably should do things other than just constantly think about how to make a ideology tier list or a League of Politics, type video.
Right. That's like the politics is for power, like the go to your local city council
Yeah,
meeting.
exactly. I preach
What
about
your
that a lot.
candidates are, yeah.
Yeah, and I've taken what baby steps in that regard. And there are, I do make efforts and I do things. And I'm being somewhat overly critical of myself, but that's better than not being critical. But yeah, so I feel like I'm trying to convince you to not watch me, basically. Which I'm not trying to convince you that. I think my videos and ideas speak for themselves, right? And I don't have an interest in necessarily articulating the reasons around why you or someone else should be compelled by them. Go watch them and see if you are.
When was the last time you changed your mind about something?
When was the last time I changed my mind about something? Something significant. The last time I changed my mind about something. That maybe Sam Hyde is a Nazi.
Like, was it during the debate with Destiny, or was it like when you
No.
like watched it further on or later on?
It was when I when I said to Destiny, I haven't watched enough Sam Hyde, which made me realize, well, maybe I shouldn't tell Destiny I don't think he's a Nazi up front, which was really just my way of like, let's talk about the point he raised.
Right.
So maybe that regard. Another time I changed my mind more recently would be probably I don't know. Probably the degree to which I thought that I was immune to negative comments. Turns out I'm slightly less immune than I thought I was. I do get annoyed every now and then.
Right. And how did you come to that realization?
Well, I don't want to hyperstition it into reality by saying which kind of particular comment pissed
That's
me
a bad
off.
thing.
The Easter Island head ones really fucking piss me off. Okay, if someone really wants to piss me off, they just go ahead and keep spamming that, and then that ruins my day.
You can't do the like little block thing in the YouTube studio.
Stop asking me those questions. I would say, let me phrase it like this. I'm annoyed by comments that hit on criticism that I have of myself that I don't think is true, but am somewhat insecure about, and therefore make me part of me think that their comment is true, even though the truer part of me knows it's not. But because I'm insecure, I give it more weight than I should.
Right.
And I won't be specific on what that is, but
that's good.
But it has changed my mind about like, okay, how do I need, like, when I meditate or when I go for a walk and think about myself or think about things, I have to be like, okay, what is my orientation towards comments, and how much stock should I put in the fact that a lot of these people commenting these things are fans of a sex criminal, it appears. But yeah.
Right. It's like how you adjusted your expectations over the years, because like sometimes it can be like like a lot of people just attach themselves entirely towards those comments and then get audience captured. So I think it's an interesting thing when you have like a lot of anti-fans.
Yeah.
And people coming.
It's the opposite of Jordan Peterson, or I'm trying to, because or Destiny, where the fucking chat is right there, just reaffirming every possible thing all the time, whether it's Vosh, Destiny, Hassan, or then like Jordan Peterson, hordes of people going to his lectures. It's like, well, how could you not think that you're God's gift to the world? It's like,
right.
For better or worse, I'm certainly not in that position right now.
Have you ever been to like one of his lectures?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Did you get to like ask a question like up at the mics, or?
No, I would have been thrown out.
Okay.
No, this was a while ago.
Okay.
But no, it was good. It was a good lecture.
That's good. Like before COVID, or
Yeah, this is a while ago. This is
okay,
like,
interesting.
2018, 2019, probably,
That's
I
cool.
think.
So I wanted to ask a little bit about your some like the media consumption and like where you get all your um information from, or
Sure.
um you like a lot of podcasts and you like listening to stuff, and
Say that first
I
part again. I what?
you like a lot of podcasts and like listening to stuff and like the
Podcast.
lectures,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you do a bit of reading, and I want to ask about what do you think is like so appealing to those certain things for you or for like other people, like why it's like the podcast selection, or just why it seemed like such a big resurgence.
Yeah, I think because people are more attached because like I said at the beginning, you can't evaluate political ideas without evaluating the person espousing them. Podcasts and the what would you say? Following individuals instead of institutions allows people to do that better. So I follow a diverse range of people on X. Um, and they're all over the place ideologically. Although the algorithm's fucked, so I can't be getting I can't be sure that I'm getting a whole view, but I definitely see very different perspectives at different times. Um, but I think the whole podcast selection thing is like I kind of know where Joe Rogan's flaws are as an interviewer. So when I'm watching him interview someone, I kind of know like he's not going to push back on this thing, even though he probably should. And then I can be more certain, like, okay, the thing that Joe Rogan didn't push back there is an area I can look up, myself or something. Um, so listening to individual personalities and understanding them as people and as flawed individuals rather than sort of faceless institutions. Walter Cronkite in the news, like, here's the news today. Da, 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 da. It's like ChatGPT could have given me that. So yeah, how does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's like it's mostly just like a more intimate setting, and it goes a little bit with I think some of the loneliness thing, to be frank. Like I think the podcast just the podcast setting definitely makes you feel like someone's like a little bit more in the room with you,
Sure.
as opposed to like the TV where it's like it's at you instead of like with you, kind
Yeah,
of.
totally. That's a good way to
I
put it.
think that's because I think it's
Hmm.
also like how you see the with the gender distribution, because it's primarily like a male consumption, um
What
and
is primarily a male consumption?
like podcasts,
That true?
like it's slightly,
Maybe on YouTube, but like I'm pretty sure Call Her Daddy and all these true crime podcasts are
yeah, that's true.
overwhelmingly female.
I would separate it a little bit with like the politics or like the comedy, right? Like Joe Rogan listeners I think are mostly male.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah,
But like Call Her Daddy, I think is almost as big as Joe Rogan, and that's almost all female.
yeah, but that's like not a political podcast at all, or like
Have you
she
have you
had
listened?
Harris on.
Have you listened to Call Her Daddy?
No, I haven't, honestly. I shouldn't have said that.
Mm. I've had the interesting experience of having listened to a few episodes. I don't. I would. I mean, uh, Joe Rogan's not political in the same sense that like Kyle Kalinske is political. Joe Rogan talks about politics and political issues, and I think on Call Her Daddy she does the same. Maybe not as often. I haven't. I've only listened to a few episodes, so I can't say either. But like Joe Rogan talks about, it's philosophical in that it's talking about like issues of the day and cultural issues, and I'm pretty sure like Call Her Daddy does as well.
Right. I guess it mostly just depends on like the guest and like
It's
the tone
entirely
of it,
dependent
for
on
sure.
the guest and the podcast. So certainly more men are going to watch Joe Rogan, that's for sure. Um, and maybe you're right. Like, and maybe politics is it more male skewing? I don't know. I don't necessarily know that. It's hard to say.
I think it's just for I don't know if I would say like because like as far as like local like politics participation, right? It's like all women, right?
Yeah, it's a
Or
lot of
like
women.
for volunteers, and like I think
Mhm.
I was mostly just like when in my mind when I'm saying that I'm just thinking of like the top 20 like around like the election month, like on
Sure.
Spotify,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of like right
Andrew
wing like
Schultz and all that.
opinion for
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yes, if you're thinking what in the most recent case when Trump went on all these different podcasts, overwhelmingly he was probably reaching males. Yes.
Right.
Um and that might and that I could see that continuing, and maybe there's a male female divide there that will continue, but yes, okay, I agree with that.
I'm a little frustrated, to be frank, with like the quality of the interviews. So that's kind of what I've been trying to do with like some of my friends, or like with JJ, is like learning to appreciate like how difficult it is to do it in the moment. And like obviously like anyone like sitting can say like, oh, like he's not challenging him, or like he's not pushing back on like the Rogan like vaccine claims. But obviously like if then they
Yeah.
were their chair, like it's so hard to do in the moment, and it's so hard to not like get nervous or like think about like what you're going to say. So
Well, go ahead, ask your question.
sorry, yeah, I really want to think about like what makes like a good interviewer. And I talked about that a little bit with JJ, like the whole like, is JJ going to be like the Canada Joe
Yeah,
Rogan thing,
yeah.
and like what's the tactic for being like kind of friendly, and then like also like getting answers, and like the balance you draw there, as far as whether or not you really want to like activate people, or whether or not you want to just get clicks. And I
Yep.
really don't know. I mean, no one knows that answer, but
Well, I have a hypothesis, and it um at least explains my three conversations with Destiny, which each got progressively more disagreeable, let's say.
right,
The first one, there was a ton of like, man, I love this PF Young guy. He's going to get Destiny on a philosophy arc. That didn't happen. He's on a different arc right now, a
right,
legal arc, I believe. But it's not. You don't do one interview. You do multiple interviews over time, and you don't make one video and have people interact with your content one time. You make many videos and have them interact with it multiple times. I don't know. I mean, there are obviously people like this, but most people who watch Destiny, or most people who have seen a clip of Destiny destroy conservative, or a clip of Jordan Peterson destroy liberal, or a clip of JJ lie about UFOs, because UFOs are definitely real and he pretends they're not, but that's fine. Um, they only they they don't just interact with those videos once, right? They see them multiple times. And so when I talked to Destiny the first time, I specifically went on my way to go, I have all these major criticisms I have of him. I'm not even going to bring them up, because the first important thing is to establish rapport. Hey, I'm here. I disagree with you, and I want to be honest about that. But like, I wanted to show you good faith. And the second time, I can push the disagreement more. And then the third time, I can say Israel maybe did 9/11. And, it just goes from there. So like, I interviewed a guy named Stephen Wolfe, who wrote The Case for Christian Nationalism. I've watched a lot of his stuff. I watched probably like 10 hours of his podcast beforehand. He's a very like normie coded, let's say. I don't know. I don't know what his power level truly is, because he does spend a lot of time on Twitter, it appears. Like, this is not a debate, bro.
right.
So there's no scenario where I'm going to talk to him and like cut him off mid sentence. And that doesn't even necessarily achieve what I'm trying to achieve. I mean, I'm just trying to genuinely ask him some questions, and I got the answers that I wanted. But like someone like Andrew Wilson, have you seen my debates with him?
On the Crucible, I
Yeah.
haven't, but probably
Okay.
clips.
Well, him and I fucking go back and forth and call each other dipshits and all that, because
Right.
we have the rapport, and we can do that, and we can cut each other off and tolerate that. Um, so if you're playing the meta game, not just the game, but the set of all games, you do a long-term strategy, which is good faith, show good faith, establish rapport, and then push back. Right? Like anytime there's a debate, like if Joe Rogan was going to host a debate about vaccines or about whatever, flat Earth, RFK, anything, it should be no one should agree to that unless they agree to have two debates.
I like
One
that. I think
debate
there
to
should be like a
start.
part one and a part two for sure.
Yeah, Sam, I will not do this debate unless there's also a follow-up 1 week later. Because what we'll do is we'll establish the very specific points of disagreement, of contention, and then in the second iteration, we'll only focus on those points of contention.
Yeah, I guess
So
that's what I'm kind of worried about like right now, is because now I just see like the rapport, like the really kind of like soft style like interviewers, like the obviously common like Lex, or like like Rogan or even like Jubilee. Like I'm really hating Jubilee, but it kind of depends on the
Yeah,
episode.
well,
But
the whole fucking 1v20 thing is just like
yeah,
that's mental cancer. But
yeah,
sure.
it's just interesting to think about like the scale of how these ideas come about, because sometimes you don't get the opportunity to like have the person on like a second time. Like if they're like a high profile figure, like
Yeah,
you only ever get like the one
true.
chance in like the year, and then by the time the next thing rolls around, there's just a whole nother like set of like political news like to talk about that you
True.
never
Yeah.
end up revisiting the original thing, which is why I think it makes it so difficult to kind of like establish like rapport in like one
Mhm.
interview when it's like, this is my one chance, and like my next interview is going to be like 2 years from now, and by then it's like
Yeah, that's true.
no
The
one's that
the
watched the first interview is going to like remember, and then that person
Yeah.
just gets to say and watch a whole bunch of like new stuff, which is
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's fair, and that's yeah, that's a good criticism of everything I just said because mine assumes that you have the ability to have multiple interactions, and with like like someone like a Destiny, that's the case, but a Bernie Sanders is only going to be interviewed once or whatnot. Um, yeah, that's why I think that there should be more debates. Like Joe Rogan should bring on Bernie Sanders and I don't know, Jordan Peterson. um,
That'd be nice.
or something like that. But or where everyone is good faith, ostensibly, and then have the discussion. Interviews. I don't watch any. I'll never watch a Trump interview. Well, not never. I rarely watch a Trump interview because I know what he's going to do. He's going to dodge every question, and no, and he's going to go, "Excuse me, excuse me." If you try to hold him to it, he'll just go, "Excuse me, I'm talking. Excuse me, you're so nasty." And it's like, okay, like he literally is impenetrable, which is why the best interview of Trump I thought was, well, the one that was most informational for me about Trump was Theo Vaughn's, where Trump kind of opened up about his older brother being an alcoholic and stuff. I was like, ooh, interesting. There's a person here. And I think that you get people to, when someone is that defensive and they can just rhetorically deflect things, you got to get them to get their guard down. And you do that through establishing rapport and having empathy. But yeah, it's a tricky question. How do we get up? You have one, arguably, there's no right answer to this because it's like poker. Like if we're going to play, have you played poker at all?
Yeah.
So if like there's no
JJ
such
gets
thing.
mad at me for it because he's anti-gambling.
Oh, that's right. I saw that's right. You guys
Yeah.
talked about that. Yeah. Well, that's okay about JJ. Don't worry about it. I'll talk to him later and set him straight. Um, there's no such thing as playing 5 games of. Hey, we're gonna play 5 games of poker, 5 rounds. It's like you're not playing poker then, because the math, like none of this shit works unless it's over a large sample size, right? Like if you go to the table with $100, but the blinds are $20 each, you're not playing poker. You're just playing fucking flip the cards and see who has the highest cards, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if you come in and the blinds are 50 cents and you have 50 or what is that 200 big blinds, then that's how you get good at. Well, that's how you play poker because you start to take in pot odds and all that probability and stuff.
Yeah, it's about playing. You want to play the larger set of games. You
Yeah.
want
So if
to.
you're asking me, well, how do we win poker when we know we're only going to play 3 hands? It's like I don't think you can. You
Yeah,
can't. Right. The whole frame is such, and I don't think that's the issue. Part of the reason it's the podcast election is like I don't think these people are only going to do one interview every now and then. Maybe, like Trump, sure, obviously, but like I don't know the tastemakers, the Hassans, the Dave Chappelles, the Bo Burnhams, the Steven Crowders, the Brett Coopers. They're the the thing that allows them to be tastemakers, the thing that allows them to kind of influence culture, is the fact that they're in this world in an iterated sense. You know, which is where the strategy I talked about playing the metagame applies.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah. Now you've just got me thinking about like how to even get people to agree to that, or like how to make an environment where, or like even what kind of like government policy you could like advocate for, or like the theoretical algorithm that like promotes like part twos, right? Like how do you even make this kind of thing like accessible, or like how do you like monetize it, I guess, just because like the way things are now, it really promotes like the podcast circuit where you never really do the part two. you just keep going to like the next person, the next person, the next person, and you just keep giving your same spiel over again. Because the whole point of like doing the part two is that there would be like kind of new talking points where you have to like be more well researched,
Mhm.
which just like takes so much more time and like money or staff or whatever.
Yeah, well,
Whereas if you just
I
keep you know
maybe that's a good point. I'm trying to think of what are some examples of people coming. Well, this is just one instance, but I saw that Vivek was on Andrew Schultz's podcast for the second time. He was he was on there a couple months ago prior to my conversation with Destiny, which is what prompted a lot of that second conversation was about Vivek. So that's an example of him going back on. But
well, but they talk about the original things
I don't
like
know. Well,
after you get
yeah,
like
good point. Good point. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm a pioneer. Maybe I was the one trying, because I've talked to JJ I don't know how many times, and we disagree on things. Let me ask if I can ask you a question. Because you said you watched a decent amount of me and JJ's conversations?
yeah.
Because here's what I think about JJ. I think that JJ and I have literal just different personality types, and so we view the world through a fundamentally different lens, at least to some degree. Not like irreconcilably different, but in a very different way. And I've accepted that, and I learned that, which is why I guess I don't really. I mean, we I don't know. We've talked probably 10 times publicly at least, and we have covered a lot of the same ground often. Have you found that to be productive
Um,
to the degree that
like
we
as
do
far
cover
as
the
for
same
like an
thing?
audience or for like
No,
for like discerning like truth.
for you as someone who is trying to learn what is true, or I don't know, whatever your goal is to try and. It seems like you're oriented towards truth and good. Um,
Yeah, that's a good characterization.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
take
yeah,
it.
right. Vaguely, at least.
Yeah.
Did you find that repeat interactions between me and JJ talking about the same thing? Did you find that useful?
Um, my way of looking at these interactions is mostly kind of as like a judge of character and is about like how much wiggle room you're allowed to like give the other person, which is like the whole good faith thing, like
Yeah.
like just like conceding the point and then like arguing based on like their point or like using
Yep.
their framework of language, which is why I think like it's just really helpful to be able to like to be able to adopt the mimetics or like the best talking points of the other person, because then at least you're talking on the same floor and you're signaling to like the same people that
That's
at
a
least you understand the language. Like I speak League of Legends, I speak StarCraft, I
yeah,
speak
right. That's a good way to
game or
put it.
whatever.
Adopting being willing to use someone else's terms is sort of like co-opting their memes.
Yeah,
I like that.
but to finish the point, then
Yeah,
I would just say like it's diminishing returns.
I agree.
Like I think like the second and third one is like fine, but then yeah, like the more and more it goes on, like you do end up like just kind of rehashing the same things, and
Right. Which
and
is
then
why the
it's not really about the
frequency.
new news. It's just about like your ideological lenses of like how you view. You're clearly like vibes based, and JJ's more. uh, I don't want to say like facts based, but
I know. I've it's not an irrecoverable mistake, but it's certainly an unnecessary hurdle I created for myself by positioning myself as the vibes guy,
yeah, it's
which is fine.
definitely
But
weak
arguably,
compared to like the whole Ben Shapiro
yeah, facts don't care
ideological
about your
backfield.
feelings.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I could say stuff about that, but yeah, I guess on I wonder if JJ will watch this. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't say this then because he might watch this. I texted him that I was coming on to talk to you. He's like, Kevin's a nice guy, and I'm worried he may watch this.
He'll
But
watch
I'll
this.
say
You
it
can
anyway.
criticize him. It's fine.
I'll say it
He's
anyway. No, it's not. No, it's not criticism. It's my
okay.
master plan. I don't give two shits about convincing a hardcore, not even hardcore. Let's say, well, I
You
don't
don't
give
care
two.
about convincing the extremists.
Yes, and in this case, the JJ McCullough extremists, right? The ones who love JJ McCullough, right? And he's like, oh, he's just the smartest guy around, right? Which some comments I've seen are, I'm amused by how much they love JJ McCullough. I'm not trying to convince them. I can't convince. I know that. I'm not trying to red pill them. I'm trying to red pill JJ, and I'm slowly but surely doing it in my own right-wing freakazoid way, according to JJ.
Right.
So it's not about truth. Well, it is about truth. It's not about what would you say? Yeah, it's not about convincing others. Which I will say, I have said this before multiple times. I'm not. My primary concern is not convincing other people. It's about saying what I believe to be true. And even I was watching it back, and I was like, that's kind of, it feels dishonest, even though I'm the one that said it. Because obviously it would be, yes, obviously it'd be nice to convince people of my ideas, right? Just like it'd be nice if I make a YouTube video for it to get 100,000 views. But I don't do anything with the intent of how do I get 100,000 views. I do things with the intent of I'm going to say what I believe to be true and make a good video. And if it gets 100,000 views, that'll be great. And like, that would be nice. And then like, I say what I believe to be true. And then if it convinces people, great. But if it pisses a bunch of people off, well, also maybe that's the best outcome because I said what I believe to be true. And maybe them getting pissed off causes them to write me off. And then a year later, they come back to me and go, wait a minute, I hated this guy. And yet he just made a take that I really like. Oh shit, I was wrong about this guy the whole time. And then I'm even a bigger fan than I would have been had I just come across him individually, which has happened to me with Jordan Peterson. The first time I came across Jordan Peterson, I was like, fuck this guy. He's a curmudgeon old grump. And then like on Steve Polkin's show. And then a year later, the Kathy Newman interview came out. I was like, oh,
Steve
here we go.
Palkin? Sorry,
Yeah, the first time I saw, what is it? Is it Steve Palkin?
Steve Paikin with an I.
Palkin, sorry. The first time I saw Jordan Peterson was on some other interview. And then it was a year later, I saw the Kathy Newman interview. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I didn't like this guy. And now I'm like, oh, damn. What else have I been wrong about? And, Vosh has like described this dynamic specifically about how like he uses edgy humor. And Destiny, I think, had a similar thing of like they use edgy humor. They say crazy shit. Then people come and check it out and they're like, damn, I actually like a lot of what this guy has to say. And I am very confident, for example, like when I position myself as the vibes guy, which even you pointed out, it's like vibes and the other guy has facts. When I do my videos about why intuition is a valid way of knowing, I'm very confident that people who appreciate facts will go, okay, clearly Paul is not the non-fact guy, right? He's making a different point here. And then I think that locks them in more so than they're just like, oh, this is interesting.
Well, how do you think about the fact that like some compelling stories to tell that like can you like unite people like just like lead to like worst outcomes from like what we can tell from like history though? Like that's what the JJs would say like of the world, that like yes, like you might be able to tell more compelling stories, but like that doesn't, and like you unite certain people for like a time, but like it like an early game thing, like it's only going to have like so much staying power and it's just going to completely crumble after like 10 minutes. And that's like the populism argument where it's really easy to like unite people behind like the banner of Trump
Ideology,
currently.
or like religious fundamentalism or some bullshit.
But like ultimately if you don't produce like
Well, I
good
would say,
outcomes, then you tend to get like a backlash.
yeah, well, I would say by definition, the most compelling stories produce the best outcomes, which is a statement of faith. I don't have any evidence to support that. Just like I don't have any evidence to support the claim that you're conscious. I can't prove that you're conscious, but I choose to believe maybe that you are. And that's how I feel about the idea that the most compelling story is the most true story, and the most true story, assuming it's oriented in assuming it's paired with love, is the
Which is a
best
lot of
story.
assumption, and then like you just get into so much assumptions about like what is love, what is truth, what is
Oh
the
yeah,
best
totally.
outcome. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
right.
um
But correct. But this is an insolvable problem.
yeah, it is.
It's like saying, and it's why I don't think it's very useful trying to use logic to hash it out. It's sort of like arguing about. It's like trying to use logic to prove God exists. It's like, bro, if God exists, I'm gonna find him in the mushroom trip where all my logic is out the window, not through your fucking. Well, if A is then B, then not P, logical syllogism, therefore God. Like that's not how I'm gonna arrive at some religious claim.
Like it's like how we tend to like really kind of take for granted, or I say we, but yeah, like I would say like politicians tend to like really take for granted the sorry, what's the saying? The like voting against your interests. And I guess it's not just like the politicians, but it's just it really takes for granted that like the fact that like people's interests like change, right? Because like people can like vote against their economic interests, but then it just takes for granted all of like their social interests or like their communities, right? Because you can conceive of worlds where you might vote against your economic interests, but it actually ends up better for you in the long run
Yeah, of
just because of
course,
like your
of
community and like
course.
your family. And like that's a kind of compelling story that I feel like always gets like kind of left behind just because the economic story has been so dominant.
Yeah, would I rather have my 48-inch flat screen TV cost $200 and my neighbors are out of a job, or would I rather have it cost $400 and my neighbors have a job? Well, obviously the second. I like at a certain point, reducing the material costs of things doesn't produce increase in meaning. Right? The fact that we have a new iPhone virtually every year is borderline disgusting, in my opinion. Of like all the shit that we could be, all of our best minds are trying to produce the next most addictive fucking phone, which everyone knows is like damaging certainly young people, young like kids' brains, and probably adults too. And that's very frustrating because, well, economically, your preferences are you want your iPhone to cost more? It's like, yeah, I want the next iPhone to cost $10,000 so nobody fucking buys it. So then we figure out better things to do with our money.
You know, I'm like,
You see how mad I'm getting?
yeah,
Because I personally, independent of YouTube, have a bad relationship with my phone. And I feel isolated sometimes because I think other people are isolated, including me. And then I get mad. And then I go on YouTube and I spew my personal problems in the form of ideology and irony and all that. And
no, I get it. It's a projection of your own frustrations with like your
right.
phone.
But
You're
that's the
trying
thing
to,
is I believe that's off. But I may be projecting, but I'm not inauthentic about it. Or I'm not lying. Like I'm not lying that I am mad about it.
yeah, yeah,
I get
no,
mad. I like that is me getting mad.
right.
And I trust that is people would rather have that be the case than that I'm 100% correct all the time on all these little nuances.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not like a unique situation to you.
Right?
It's something that we're increasingly feeling, and I really like the certain ideas of how to like combat it. Like the if you've heard of like the CJDX like phone box thing, I kind of like that.
No. Oh, where
Like
like you walk in a room and you put your phone in. Like
yeah,
that should be
or
a
like the pneumatic tube or something like a cultural
yes.
ritual to like immerse
CJ said
yourself in the
that.
room. Yeah, or I
I've
think it's a
I've
CJ
I've had
project. Yeah,
I've never articulated that idea out loud, but I have. I mean, I've been in circumstances where that's the case. Everyone put their phone in the thing. That should be there should be a fucking glass bowl at the front of everyone's door in everyone's home where phone in there.
yeah. I think his thing is primarily the aesthetic thing, where it's like we have like the phone lockers or we have like the bowls or whatever, but they're just like not aesthetically pleasing and like they're kind of like ugly or like they don't like make nice sound effects. So
Oh, I
I
see what you're
think his
saying.
idea is like the nice like box where it's like a pneumatic tube, where
Yeah. Okay.
like
Very
the Star
nice.
Trek thing where it's like
Yeah.
yeah,
Very vibes based.
yeah, very
Functions
vibes
the
based.
same, but we need the right vibe. Yeah. Right.
Yes,
Agree totally.
yes, it's about telling the story.
I'm gonna post a 1.5 hour conversation I had with CJ in a couple days.
That's good. It was during your trip
Yep.
to Toronto.
During my northern escapades. Yeah.
That's cool. How'd you find it?
It was good. It was
Is
interesting.
this the first time you've been to Canada, or
Yeah. That was the first time I was in Toronto.
Frozen chosen?
Frozen. Yeah. God's frozen north. It was cool. Toronto's a nice city. I like it.
Right.
We did a sauna slash ice bath combination the last day I was there with Greg and the crew,
That's
and that
cool.
was a lot of fun. And
That
I
is a lot of fun.
almost passed out because my head was spinning after having been submerged up to the neck in ice. And I thought I was more prepared for it because I had to take cold showers, but I was not. But anyway,
That's somewhat surprising that you haven't like done it before. It's kind of seems like
my thing. I
yeah,
have. I mean, I've literally taken rocks and broken out ice and then sat in the lake in Colorado. I've done that before and I was fine. But then I went all the way neck with all the ice and I got like the spins, like I was drunk. Um, so yeah, so I just need to prepare next time a little bit more. I
Right.
probably should eat within 10 hours of doing that, which maybe it was like 8 hours. I don't know.
That's helpful.
Anyway,
My head would be spinning if I was looking at the projector screen the entire time. That was probably my least favorite part of like the horseshoe theory episodes
I'll
recently.
relay that to them. I'm indifferent to it, but I
It's
would
a funny
not.
gimmick, but
Yeah.
I'm a little annoyed they do it for more than one episode. But that's more power to them.
Yep. That's fair.
Uh,
I got about 20 more minutes or so. If
yeah,
that
that's
works.
good. What else do I have here?
Hit me with the questions that you think I would find most difficult to answer or offensive.
Sorry, I only have cordial questions here.
Right. That's what I said. The
I
most,
can, no, I can.
most offensive, not offensive questions, but the ones that would be most offensive, most controversial, maybe.
Uh, um, I want to talk about your school experience a little bit. Do you think
Okay.
like, did you have like a good social relationships in school with like friends or like professors, or is like some of your like art
What do you like?
because
What are you talking about? What age range are we talking about here? Like college?
yeah.
Um,
Tell me about how your college experience radicalized you.
just generally speaking.
Yeah.
Well, my freshman year, I was the most depressed I'd ever been. Oh, that was rough because, I mean, I went to a school where I didn't really know anybody. I was going to go with a friend, and then he switched to a different school like a couple of months before. So I went in kind of alone, and had a rough time. I didn't have like any friends. I basically just played League of Legends like all day. Napped for like 3 hours at a time. Played League. Didn't do shit. I mean, I worked out a good amount, but that was about it. Um, so that sucked, and that made me, I guess, more sensitive to the fact of psychological suffering and isolation. And I deleted Instagram back then because that made me feel real shitty because it was like, well, look at all these people having fun. Just scroll up, have fun, 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 fun. Here I am alone. And so I probably have a more negative attitude toward Instagram than I should because I don't post on Instagram, even though it's probably good for the YouTube channel. Um, but yeah, that shaped my opinions on things. I mean, generally, as far as the school itself. So I mean, sophomore year things got better. I joined a fraternity, and that was a lot of fun. And I took acid and learned that I wanted to be a communicator. I took acid legally, of course. I only ever do legal things.
Right.
And I came home, and like a Manila folder where you put like paper documents in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took a Manila folder and a mechanical pencil, and I was writing on that Manila folder with that mechanical pencil. And I felt like God creating Adam. Like this is creation right here. Putting pencil to whatever that material is. It was so, I don't know, ASMR or whatever the thing that creates that sensation. And I wrote down, I don't remember exactly what the word was, but something like, I need to be a communicator. Because I was just majoring in business. I didn't know what the fuck I was going to do. I certainly didn't know I wanted to make a YouTube channel. I didn't until COVID. But I did start taking on leadership roles in the fraternity that were more about communicating ideas and stuff. And I, made presentations about like what is the meaning of life, which is synthesizing some Jordan Peterson stuff. And then I was in business school, so we didn't fucking talk about politics at all. It radicalized me, going like, Jesus, this is lame and boring. And I thought I was going to come here and meet all these cool people who are interested in ideas, but I just met a bunch of fucking finance nerds. And I regret not taking more philosophy courses and surrounding myself with people who would spontaneously just talk about ideas. Which is like when I was just in Toronto at that studio. That's all they did. We'd be, I'd be hanging out at the studio the whole time, like 6 people in the room, and just, what do you think about, this cryptocurrency kind of dynamic that's going on in the economy? What do you think about this person, psychologically or whatever? And it's like, that's cool. I'm surrounded by people who are naturally interested in ideas. Which for most of my life was the opposite. It was like, shut up, Paul. No one cares about politics and stuff. It's mostly like sports and stuff, which is fine. I'm a fan of sports, not to the degree that my other friends were, or at least not in replacement of the things that I'm fundamentally interested in. So Yeah, and then I have a minor in gender studies. That's also fun.
Can I touch a little bit more on the communication
Go
thing?
ahead.
Because I want to think about like what specifically like the differences between like a studio like that where they're like completely like talking about all ideas and then like being like really, I would say, productive generally with translating their ideas like into reality through like a video or some like kind of creative project. And then like the counterfactual where I kind of experience it myself, but I guess I see it with um other people, or in the psychological literature, where it's like the whole talking about your ideas and then you get the dopamine from them and then you're like less likely to practice them, right? Like if you just tell someone like your core
Yeah,
idea and like how you do that.
right.
So how do
Totally.
you think you balance that? Because like you've been like a communicator. Like was there ever a point where um you were just like a talker, like talking about like all your cool ideas and then you just never did them, like that was like your whole freshman year or something? Or uh,
Yeah, that was my whole
like,
life.
like
I
what's the
grew up.
difference? Tell me, like the vibe of that studio. Is it just because that they are like kind of together and like pushing each other to like produce the stuff
Mm,
instead of like a single like loner where it's just
mhm.
like he's like dopamine?
Well, I'm sure that's part of it. I mean, you could tell everyone in that studio is wired to be interested in ideas and just be like thinking about things kind of all the time,
Right.
which is most people are not, right? And most people that watch me and whatever audience you have now and in the future are probably not are probably in a are almost certainly in a minority on the personality distribution, right? Like most people don't care that much about abstract ideas or at all.
Yeah.
Um, so that it was a selection thing. So it's selected for people of that personality type. And then, but to your question, it was like, yeah, I always had an itch to talk about ideas. And when my friends would listen, and so I naturally had to I had to explain my ideas in a way that we're not going to turn off the brains of people who are not necessarily interested in ideas, right? Hence the vibes, and hence like comedy and irony and stuff like that. Because like I'm not just going to sit here and go, I think Israel exerts a disproportionate amount of influence given their size, and I understand the rational reasons for it. It's like, no, I'm going to go Zog. All my dogs hate Zog, right? Even though it's the same idea that I'm trying to convey, at least. And I learned those skills, if you want to call it that, from being around people who are not receptive to logical discussion about abstract ideas. Um, so does that answer your question?
um
No.
no.
Specify it.
I, i'm 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 wondering if there was like a part where you were getting more dopamine from the ideas just talking about them
That's
versus
right.
like producing them.
Um, Interesting. So that's the thing. Well, my
Like
gut
your
in
very first video, like I watched your
Yep.
first video with JJ, but like I don't know what the oldest video on your channel is.
It's
I
called my
think it's
first
like,
video.
okay, sorry. Yeah, I think
Well,
it's
no,
like,
no, sorry. Technically, it's like a Jordan Peterson compilation, but that's not really when I started my channel. My first video is called my first video.
okay. So why did you make that instead of just talking about making
Oh,
that?
well, because it was during COVID and everyone was bitching at each other on Facebook, and I was getting fucking these passive aggressive ass comments from these people that I, to this day, do not have a high opinion of. And I was like, fuck it. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to play keyboard warrior here. I'm going to post my face in a video and say, here's what I believe. And, come at me, tool. So that's why I did that initially.
Hmm.
And most of my videos were just meant for like friends on Facebook. And then as the channel got a little bit bigger, I got to more narrow my interest on like the Jordan Petersonite stuff, right? Trying to because that was more of my fundamental interest.
This is your origin story. Is you're just like a long form keyboard warrior, or if
Yeah,
you want to be
basically, literally,
like a more righteous
my
keyboard warrior.
origins. Yeah, my origin story is my dumbass friends on Facebook were fucking arguing with other people and me, and I was like, "Fuck this! I'm just gonna make a video."
And
And
like, and
oh,
they
how
like
things
watched it.
have
Like
changed.
how did it work with like that dynamic? Like, did they make videos back at you, or they
No,
just
of
like
course not. They're a bunch of
commented
fucking
like angry
pussies.
things
No,
against on Facebook?
no, they just should. No, nobody said anything and I invited them to come on. I said, "Hey, let's have a podcast. We'll live stream or we'll record it and post it for everyone to see." Oh, turns out suddenly people are not so quick to fucking bitch on you in the Facebook comments when you say, "Hey, we'll have a video discussion and post it so everyone can see it.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm getting mad again.
That's good. That's the accountability metric, right? Like the whole,
Yeah.
people aren't willing to like attach like money or like even their face to like their
Right.
opinion. So it's like,
And I
then how
learned that
much?
all these, which is partly why I don't take the comments as seriously, because I'm like, oh, these are all the keyboard warriors. They're all cowards. Now, I have revised my attitude because people, when I did have my call-in streams, people would come on and call me a fucking tool and a shill to my face, which I was like, all right, fair enough. I can't call them cowards anymore. Um, but yeah, my origin story was getting pissed about people talking shit on Facebook, basically. Now, as far as the ideas, I get what you're trying to ask. Is like, well, when I talked about these ideas, and did that then diminish the desire to make videos about them? No, not really, because my interest is in I get the most value from getting someone else to understand a complex idea that I understand. Because it makes it I feel like it validates it for me, because I might have this wacky intuition about a norm. Did you see my archetypal memes video with the normal distribution?
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty schizo idea. That I'm like, this probably doesn't have any merit. But then if I do my best explaining it, and people go, "Wow, this is like great stuff. This helps me understand things," and people email me and they start adding their own ideas onto it and stuff. I'm like, okay, in a sense, it validates these loose intuitions in my mind. It gives me confidence in just how I perceive the world. So that's cool. And there's an aspect of like, cool, I'm able to communicate a complex idea to someone in a way that's useful for them. That in and of itself is fulfilling. And so I was doing that in person. Like I distinctly remember in my fraternities fairly often we'd be smoking weed around it. We sit in a circle smoking weed. And politics would come up every now and then. And this had to happen at least, I think I can remember maybe 3 or 4 times, but it probably happened a dozen or so or more, where there'd be like 8 people, sometimes like 10 or 12, and we'd all be smoking weed, and I'd go on like a little bit of a rant, right? And then I do the weave that Trump calls it, right?
Yeah.
And or what Jordan Peterson does, start in one area, go on this whole fucking tangent, like just, and then go, and that's why I believe that. And the whole room would be silent. And it wasn't this guy's an idiot thing, because that did happen. And that did also happen, and I knew when that happened. But there were times like when it was like, damn, okay, everyone's kind of like, we're on the same vibe here. Like I sent the right vibe that I wanted to get, and it's making them think.
Right. And as soon as you caught that, then you were like, oh, I
Yeah,
can
and
do
I
this
was like,
again. I can repeat
yeah,
this
that's
experiment.
cool.
Yeah.
Right. So
Cool.
I view what I do on YouTube as an extension of that. It's not really I get what you're saying, but that's really like, hey, I have this idea to start a business, and then I talk to people about this great business idea, and then I never do it. But that's not really what I'm doing. It's more just the act of explaining is the thing in and of itself.
Right.
And I just get to do it on YouTube. And again, part of because, a lot of my friends didn't care about these type of ideas. It was like, it was something that was inside me that needed to get out, right? Like during COVID, I would go on the politics Discord server, just hop in a Discord with like 30 fucking of the most peculiar individuals, let's say. I'm trying to say autist and schizo less, but some of those people were severely schizophrenic in some cases, like screaming into the mic, and autistic for sure. But I did the same thing. I was like, let me try and make the room silent with my points. And a couple times I did that. Other times I learned huge mistakes. Like one time I was in like a 20-30 person debate in the politics Discord. And we were talking for an hour, and I made this point, and it was something about like, I don't know what it was exactly, but all I remember was I made this really, I made this argument. Everyone got kind of silent and was like, I could just tell people were like, damn, okay, this guy clearly the alpha inside the politics debate server, which is not an alpha in any real life, but at least in that server, I was the alpha for a moment. And then I said something like, and that's why we all need to just get along or some shit. And everyone went, oh, fuck that or whatever. And so it was like, I learned. Don't stand on the soapbox too long, because it does not fucking work. You have to be very careful about trying to moralize after, making some logical point. That's like a very specific nuanced thing that I learned there. But yeah, it's wild fucking times.
Yeah, I remember going onto the politics server after the election night, like the day after, and it was pretty hellish.
Yeah, and then I got bored after that. I was like, yeah, I need to, do other things, and that's probably why I'm interested in like talking to Destiny. I genuinely don't give a shit about like I don't even know how you would measure. Even if my goal was to convince people, I don't know how I'd measure that and feel any sense of success. Like I'm fundamentally just interested in finding the smartest people I can find who disagree with me and asking them questions. It's like Destiny unironically says every conservative is a fucking artard. Like that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. And he has an IQ of 190. And I'm just interested in understanding how he arrives at that conclusion. And a
I
lot of it has
mean,
to do with his
yeah.
psychological trauma, which I'm not going to, probably get a chance to go deep into. The
Yeah.
lawyers will get into that, but
I mean, also for him, it's like we said, like it's also like a lot of packaging thing and I know you probably dug a little bit deeper, and you might think he like actually believes that, but like I think it might
well,
be like
that's
a
the thing. What do
packaging
people
thing
actually
to,
believe? It's like,
yeah,
I asked him if he could press a button and all the conservatives would disappear from the world.
yeah. It's Destiny. Destiny is going to answer yes to every
No,
extreme
he said no
hypothetical.
to that, but I think he would,
Oh,
whatever that means.
okay.
I mean,
Yes.
no one knows what he said, but he said no. But I believe he would have pressed. He would have, hit yes. But
Okay.
who knows?
All right. Two last things. I just want to
Okay,
ask you about what you're optimistic about, like outside your personal life, like as far as like the world goes, or you can limit it to like America. Um, and then if you have like any questions for me.
I'm optimistic that RFK Jr. will not ban vaccines, not all of them. We could probably lose a few on the schedule. We don't need 26 by age 1. That's ridiculous. But let's keep measles and mumps and all that shit, or rubella and all that, whatever, polio. And I'm confident he'll take a lot of the shit out of our food that's bad. I hope he does. I'm optimistic about that. That's very specific. I could have gave something more uniting, but I wanted to pick something polarizing that would upset people.
No, yeah, that's fair. Did you watch his confirmation
No, I need
thing?
to do that. I've seen some clips. I'm looking forward to seeing some of it. But Alex Jones seems to approve of him, so that's how you know. Questions for you?
Yeah. What do you want to say to the younger generation of Canada, the new Zoomers that are gonna vote for
Flee!
Trudeau
Flee
or
for
probably
your
gonna,
lives! You seen Lord of the Rings?
yeah,
Denethor at Minas Tirith when he sees all the fucking orcs and he's like, flee, flee,
yeah.
flee, and then Gandalf fucking whacks him in the face.
We're either gonna hide in like the Arctic, or we're just gonna get
Yeah,
annexed.
or flee south before the border closes. You only have, well, it actually might be too late. Well, so you want me to give advice for the younger generation, and then I'll give you some advice. I'll give the youth some advice, and then I'll ask you a question or two. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay, my advice for the youth, 22 and under. I'm 28. I just turned 28 2 months ago. What's my advice? I'm assuming that I'm giving this advice to fellow semi-autistic males like you and I. Okay,
Sure,
which
that's
is
probably
important because it's actually important to not take advice from people that are significantly different from you. Like Alex, you know who Alex Hormozy is by any chance? You know who
no,
Gary Vaynerchuk is?
no.
Gary V. Okay, never mind
Oh,
then.
I know who Gary Vee is.
Yeah,
I
Gary V.
didn't
That
know Gary.
guy like is a fucking. Don't
Yeah,
take advice from
I
him
don't think
unless you are
like we're not
deranged in his
psychologically
way.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so assuming that someone is like us, personality and psychologically wise, what's my advice? Uh, well, first off, never
Never goon.
goon. Yeah, never goon would be good. That's number one. Don't goon. Which is not to say don't pursue relationships. Of course, you should pursue fucking relationships. That's probably the number one thing you should do is go out and talk to girls. Premarital sex is okay so long as it is done with. Well, here I'll just be more specific. Don't ever have sex with a woman who you know within 2 minutes of after having had sex with her, you're gonna go, ugh. I hope she fucking leaves. That is not good. Don't become that kind of person. Don't ever do
Right.
that. Um,
There's no such thing as casual sex. All sex is real.
yeah, something like that. I
Yeah.
think there is actually something about you. I think there are situations where it's actually like, hey, I'm going to be gone in 2 months, and I do like you, but like we both know we're not going to be together, but like we'll probably be fine as long as you don't get pregnant. But even then, it's like pregnancy and STDs are big enough up there where you lean towards never good. Anyway, that's one piece of advice. More specifically, don't ever use your intelligence as a means of trying to prove that you're better than anyone. It's the most pathetic, cringe thing, and everyone can see through it. That would be big. Only use your intelligence to bolster other people up around you and their understanding of things. And always seek to validate the correct things people say so that you can disabuse them of the incorrect things. Stop drinking out of plastic water bottles because they have BPAs and they're endocrine disruptors that are chemically castrating you and reducing your testosterone. You should probably go get a blood test. Go get your testosterone checked. That's what I would advise everyone, all the youth, the 22-year-olds and younger.
Do you guys have to pay for that, or?
Yeah, I have insurance, but
Okay.
so it's like $40 or $50.
That's
I
not
think
bad.
Brogan Art Chad said he gets it in Canada and it's free. So
Oh,
go
yeah,
fucking do
we
that.
get for free.
Go get your T checked because you'll go, oh fuck, I need to go to the gym and eat more meat and not drink out of plastics and shit. So do that. Yeah, use your intelligence for good, never for evil. Only watch Jordan Peterson videos from prior to 2019.
Sure.
But watch all of them. Watch all of the Intro to Personality, Maps of Meaning, and the Biblical Lectures. Watch all those, or listen to them at least. Don't. You don't have to listen to the Maps of Meaning audiobook. I don't think. The lectures are fine.
I just look at the diagrams. I think the diagrams are
The
great.
diagrams are great. You have to be truly autistic like us to like them, but if you are, it tickles a good itch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You know, what other advice is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Questions for you?
Yep.
What advice, Kevin, would you give to me? Assuming that you have a good idea about what my motivations are, or at least you believe them, based on what you understand about what I'm trying to achieve, what advice would you give me? And please say it in a way that you think I might find offensive, and do drop all pretense of being cordial. Just tell it to me straight, like I'm a coke addict, and you have to tell me
Okay.
this, otherwise I'm fucked.
I guess I think the most important thing is like examples whenever you're talking about something. And I guess I think you've already touched on this with like the whole streaming thing, but I think it's just um it's about specifically enhancing like the durability of your memes by being able to like have like citations or like people's like reputations on the line that like are like backing up like whatever like
Yep.
idea or like thought you're having, as opposed to just like your own like thought or reputation on the line. Because if you can at least connect it to like some other people or like other like even YouTubers, like their comments, like like if you cite like CJ or something, then it, I think that's the biggest thing. Just like whenever you're, and it's obviously not for everything, but whenever you're saying something like especially about some of like the more controversial comments, like things like that Israel and like your isolationist like tendencies like towards like Ukraine or things, and like I think it's a little important to be able to kind of cite like where you're
Yeah.
coming from and why that you think it might produce like a better outcome.
Mm-hmm.
That's mostly it. Just but like it depends, because you don't want to do that if you want to go like the irony like comedy route. Like that just really depends which route you want to go.
Well, no, I mean, no, that's an excellent piece of advice. It resonates because I would say the best videos I've made, and I would say even this is like a fundamental style of mine. The best videos I make are not even me talking. It's usually me just citing like a Jordan Peterson lecture and then juxtaposing it with a clip that demonstrates exactly what he said, or a bunch of different things, right? And so that's all I'm doing is citing examples in those videos, like about applied sociology and stuff like that. But to your point, yeah, if I'm going to talk about Zog, I do have a Word document with probably 10 different clips of like, these are the 10 clips that convince me that it's okay to go around saying Zog and maybe Israel did 9/11, and I'll just show them to everyone else and, give some context to it. Like it is a mildly, not jarring, but it is a mildly like, oh, that's odd thing to hear Ben Shapiro say verbatim, the single biggest guarantor of my loyalty to the United States is the existence of Israel. It's like, oh, that's the definition of he's more loyal to Israel than the United States. That's concerning. But what I just said is just, well, this is crackpot, right-wing freakazoid Zog, Paul over here. Right, but if I show you the clip of
yeah,
him
exactly,
doing
that's
that,
what I'm thinking. Then it's a lot stronger. Like I'm thinking, like I'm a nobody now, but like if I was at 10,000 subs, like I have to like edit the thing over your face just to like not seem like I'm crazy or like I'm endorsing the opinion. But which is why it's like helpful when your own videos, like you can just do the edits yourself or like do the citations and try not to get taken out of context. So
and I'm debating this because I'm like, should that be my next video I make? Is just here's 10 clips of why I am anti-Zog, or should I just continue to get people to hate me and then drop it and then go, oh fuck, and do that thing I was talking about earlier where it's like, I thought he was wrong, but then he showed all these clips and I was like, god damn, that's actually probably pretty real. Yeah. Forget Zog. We didn't have to talk about Zog. I don't want to force you into any terrible situations with the Zog.
I mean, I would also caution against just like the video clips. Like I think having like little excerpts of like quotes from like certain like books or like articles that they've like written like also helps just to like diversify like the media which you're collecting. Because obviously like people in the comments will just say like out of context if you're just taking video clips.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. You know what the most insightful thing anyone has ever said on one of my streams? It's 4 words. You're never gonna guess. I'll tell it to you.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Books are echo chambers. I was like, god damn, it's true. It's just one giant monologue, no pushback.
I haven't watched your anti-intellectualism, but it's just very anti-intellectual. You have like so many books behind, or a decent amount of books behind you. I can't tell if they're nonfiction or if they're all like Wheel of Time or whatever.
No, they're not Wheel of Time. There is a Brandon Sanderson thing. Was that Brandon Sanderson, Wheel of Time? No, that's someone else. It is mostly nonfiction, and I have read a third of those books. I've read a third of them. I've skimmed, and a third of them I haven't opened.
Here's like who said that to you?
Some random fucking streamer who was probably high when he said it.
Okay, so why does it have?
Not a streamer, sorry. Huh?
So why does it have like credibility?
Because it's true. A book is an echo chamber. There's no pushback. You can be the craziest motherfucker in the world and just write a whole book and then give it to someone and that's it. It's just an echo chamber.
No, because there's like a whole editing process or like publishing or like reviews. Like other people like have read like unless it's like a self-published book, like a manuscript, like you're just throwing in.
But yeah, well, a lot of books are self-published. Okay, fine.
Well, yeah, but like most of the books are like reputable. Like they go through like so many different people like reading them and like fact checking or whatever. That like like there might still be like some like ideological stuff that like seeps.
Yeah, that's fair. But fact checking, you can create an entirely cohesive argument. You can be 100% factually. You can take 100 citations that are 100% factually true, and come up with the worst fucking idea ever based on those facts. You just string them together in a way that you want. So if you're being published by, Karl Marx Publishing House Incorporated, you could say whatever you want, or or like there's all kinds of white supremacist books or some shit like that get published. So I get your point. Yeah, I'm talking about the medium of books, right?
You just collect from like a larger.
Yeah, genuine debates are opponent processing. I think Jonathan Haidt probably I bet if I'll look up Jonathan Haidt opponent processing and see if he said anything about it. But opponent processing is like a fundamental mechanism of how the human body works, where it's like you have two opposing forces, and the opposition creates precision. it's like a rule of thumb biologically. It's true neurologically. It's true with muscles where you have muscles that extend and contract, which gives you ultimate like precision to move your body. Right? I can move my butt like if I want to move my finger in a straight line, it's easier to do it by
Yeah,
pressing
that's the
against
whole
the
thing
other
like
thing.
Jordan Peterson does,
Correct.
like the whole opposition.
Yeah, I think that, and I think dialectically, that's, and I like the, I don't know, I believe the Republic, or isn't that how Socrates, like his characters would have dialogues with each other? And it was a Socratic dialogue where it was like really good steel manning of each other. Pearson talks about Dostoevsky steel manning his opposition.
Yeah.
Same idea, coming up with the best opponent and then clashing it with your belief. And I think debates, if they're good faith, genuine,
Well,
like Jordan
sounds like
Peterson's Sam Harris or Jordan Peterson and Richard Dawkins are pretty good.
you need to talk to a Zionist then,
I
and,
do. Oh, I've
and
talked to many.
steel man his arguments.
Well, I
I
won't
guess
get into a whole tangent now, but I can make the pro-Zionist argument better than most Zionists. It's not even an argument at a certain point, though. It's like for the ones that I'm against, they're just acts. They just believe that Judea in Samaria was granted them by God. They say Bible is true. Bible verse says this piece of land is ours, therefore it's ours. There's no getting out. You can't argue with that frame.
Right.
Right. So for those people, there's nothing to steal, man, other than if I believe what you believe, then sure. For the secular Zionists, nobody loves secular Israelis more than I do. I'm on that side.
Is like you said, it's just like being able to talk to the Zionists and then take their best arguments or being able to empathize with like
Totally.
their claims to the land and
Yeah.
then piecing it together.
Yeah,
from
listen, if my race was constantly getting exterminated every couple of decades, it'd be very easy for me to understand why I might want a separate state just for me. Like, it's not difficult to understand or even justify rationally. But it's more complex than that. Listen, no better way to end a podcast than talk about Israel.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time, Paul. This was a fun conversation.
Thank you,
I
Kevin.
hope we get to see some like early game, late game stuff. I'll probably try and make a video on that, and I'll cite you a little bit. But
very good.
I think for sure, like, I think we're gonna see like some serious like Pantheon like fall offs. But like we'll see with like the RFK stuff. Like we'll see if it ends up scaling or like maybe you'll just get like super fed and just like win the game against big food.
Yeah, fucking big ag and the corn syrup subsidies. I look forward to that. And here, as a rule of thumb, if you cite my videos, I'm much more inclined to share them. I'm just saying, it behooves me as the pioneer of applied sociology. The PF Jung channel is technically the only accredited journal. Right. And so if people are citing from my journal, well, I'm obligated to, expose them.
Think about like 15 years down the road when you're making your own like Peterson Academy or PF Jung Academy, when you've been disillusioned from all of the fact-based world, you got to do the meme smithing.
Nobody hates facts more than I do.